Sky, but the night is calling, the night's calling me. I don't wanna fight, and the city's drifting away.
Welcome everyone, I am One True Brick, coming at you with another LEGO Exo-Force review from the 2007 era Golden City. This is set number 8102, the Blade Titan. It was released in 2007, it had 162 pieces, and retailed for around $15. Nowadays you can expect it to once again be around the same price. After looking at a lot of the 2007 Exo-Force sets, I've really noticed that a lot of them have stayed pretty similar in price to when they were released. So $15 sets are around $15, $50 sets are around $50. The only real exception to this being special edition sets and a couple other outliers. But it's good to know that if you are looking for these sets, they haven't been hiked up in price like a lot of the first year sets. So keep that in mind. So this brings about yet another new $15 build. With the change and decision to remove the light bricks from past years, this allows for the set's core design to change. And so it has this build that's very similar to the Sky Guardian. Once again, the torso has the kind of same general build with this T shape that can be shown on the back here. And has ratchet joints for the legs and ball and socket joints for the arms, allowing a larger range of motion than last year did. It's pretty similar to the Sky Guardian, but still noticeably different. There are some parts that have been added on to give it a larger amount of bulk, similar to how the Grand Titan appeared to be more bulky than the Stealth Hunter last year. And these two Technic shells especially give it a more hulking, imposing figure. In addition to this, there are some system pieces throughout here, giving it a little bit more of a boxy look than the Sky Guardian had, with these reverse slopes and square parts. But in general, I would be inclined to say that it's pretty similar in design, which I actually would consider to be a con. That is because both the Shadow Crawler and Iron Condor show a very unique build type in comparison to past years and one another, and it's kind of frustrating when there are 4 new $15 sets and 2 of them are still really similar in design when they had the opportunity to really branch out and make something totally different. So I do wish that they had changed up the design a bit more in a variety of different ways. They could have changed the way that the torso was built. They could have changed the way the arm design was built, but generally it's kind of the same. And that I would consider to be a bit of a con if you are looking at buying both of them or all of the Golden City era sets. So, as I mentioned in past videos, the $15 sets of this particular wave do have a major difference in that instead of including the light brick, each set has its own function or weapon. Out of all of them, this is the only set that doesn't include an actual firing weapon. Instead, there is this functioning blade weapon that you can spin a gear on, and it will spin out and bring these 2 bionicle blades to bear. So that's a nice feature, and I'm glad that they chose to include it rather than having something similar like the Zamor Sphere Launcher from the Sky Guardian, so that is definitely a pro. Unfortunately, the one other thing that it shares with the Sky Guardian that's a bit of a bummer is the fragility of its feet. Now, aside from this antenna up here, for the most part, the top portion of the set is pretty stable. You would have to apply a lot of force to get some of these other parts to fall off, rather than just the small amount of force necessary to knock off the wings that are on the Sky Guardian. But the feet still have the same issue in that if you look here, there really isn't any parts that are placed at the bottom of the feet like with the Iron Condor to keep parts on. Instead, it's actually very easy to knock off pieces like so. And so I would consider that to be a bit of an issue. And I wish they would have designed that better. It would have been just as simple as adding 1 or 2 system plates at the bottom of this to hold it all together, or maybe just choosing to forego the awkward high heel look altogether. The Sky Guardian definitely looks better in the way that it was designed for its feet, but I would say with the rounded slopes here, this set kind of gives off an awkward high heels look, and I don't think it's a good look for the set, and would have preferred that they chose a different design for the feet altogether. However, that is just an opinion of mine. You may like how it looks. So in addition to having the spinning blade weapon, there are a few other moving parts. Most notably, there is articulation in the hips, knees, and ankles, as is typical. However, the arms have a little bit higher range of mobility than last year's set, the Grand Titan, and can move pretty much anywhere you could imagine a normal arm moving. In addition to this, though I'm not sure if it's fully intended, there is a slight amount of additional articulation in the arm here with this rotating blaster. There is a Technic piece right in here that can swivel on 2 joints, so it can actually extend out slightly and move from side to side, so it can give it a little bit of extra articulation. But for whatever reason, because of the length of this barrel, I look at this and it feels like it's almost a little bit too spindly. While last year's Grand Titan kind of had that Tyrannosaurus Rex sort of appearance, they add a lot of bulk to the shoulders here and the upper arms, but there's just this one spot here and this one spot here where it almost feels like it's too small in comparison to the rest of the set, and it just feels kind of awkward. I know I've said a lot of not so great things about this set. It is a fine design in comparison to some of the other weaker builds, like I will continue to use Supernova as a reference. It still maintains its stability pretty well. There is a little bit of fragility in the feet, but that is pretty typical for Exo-Force overall. My major gripe with this is that it's a really boring set. Well, it doesn't do any horrible, atrocious crimes. It is not a great set by any means. Moving on with some of the functionality, there is the ability to position these slightly differently. The torpedoes up here can also be moved to aim kind of upwards. And on top of that, there is some articulation in the torso here. Now, once again, as I mentioned with the Sky Guardian, I'm not sure if it's entirely intended to be moved around, but you can shift these up and down if that is your wish. Lastly, let's take a look at Takeshi, the minifigure included with this set. So let's go ahead and take a look at the minifigure that's included in this set, Takeshi. So, similar to past years, he does include the same head and hair mold with the dual-sided face. That is kind of iconic for Exo-Force. However, the legs and torso have changed. The legs now consist of a dark red piece instead of just a regular red and gray. And also, the torso includes a red piece with some gold armor plating on it to give it more of a Golden City feel, and I appreciate how they have chosen to create a new piece altogether instead of just slapping a dark red color scheme on the past year. However, out of everyone, I would say Takeshi probably shares the most similar design to his previous year's figure, in that it still has the same logo right here and doesn't really break up the design a ton, but not a bad figure by any means. So, the last thing I like to do when looking over a set and considering my thoughts on it is to look at the story. So, out of all 3 of the human battle machines released in Wave 1, that being the Cyclone Defender, Sky Guardian, and Blade Titan. The Blade Titan definitely got the most spotlight, and this is thanks to the final book in the Exo-Force storyline, the 5th book. And in this book, Takeshi, along with Hitami in the Blazing Falcon, go off and try to find a code brick or some sort of information. I'm having trouble remembering exactly what they're looking for. They are looking for some sort of MacGuffin to help them defeat the robots. And so they go off and they end up happening upon a village high atop the Golden City peaks, kind of at the very peak of Sentai Mountain. And while they're up there, they find some information, and they find an actual factory that produces a lot of machinery and has a generator that is used to power the Golden City. And while they are up there, they also discover the Mobile Devastator, which was supposed to bring about kind of a big, gigantic battle, but sadly, because of the rushed ending of the Golden City era, we really didn't get to see a lengthy battle between them and the Mobile Devastator. However, this was the point where it was introduced, so that is worth noting. But aside from that, and it being found in the Golden City along with the other 2 battle machines, there's not really a whole lot of detail about this character. As I mentioned before, both Hayato, Hitami, and even a little bit Rio kind of take the spotlight of this year, and Takeshi and Hikaru kind of get pushed to the back burner along with their battle machines. So not a whole lot happens other than the generic collecting code bricks and fighting off robots. No real breakthrough moments for the character or the battle machine. So I thank you all very much for taking a look at this review, and I will be back next week to take a look at the final $15 set of this year, that being the Shadow Crawler. Some consider this to be one of the best $15 sets released across the board in Exo-Force. So be sure to stay subscribed and keep an eye out for that video. Thanks, guys. Bye! You could have one leg splayed out like so, rotate the back leg, and shift this leg forward, and then you get